Over the weekend, I tweeted about the Everton and Bournemouth game. If you didn't see the match, Everton were winning the game 2-0 up until the 87th minute, before Semenyo pulled a goal back for Bournemouth. Lewis Cook followed this with a 92nd minute equaliser, and then Luis Sinisterra scored an unlikely winner for Bournemouth in the 96th minute. Losing a game that you're winning 2-0 after 86 minutes is obviously a very unlikely event, and I posted on Twitter that £6 were matched on Bournemouth to win the game at odds of 1,000 or 999 to 1. I posted this because at the time a terrible part of me found it rather funny to laugh at the poor soul who was laying at odds of 1,000, risking £999 to win just the £1. I think many people in the gambling community share a similar feeling about people trying to buy money by laying at very high odds or backing at very short odds. But it was only until later on Saturday evening where I properly analysed the situation before coming to the realisation that the person laying Bournemouth at odds of 1,000 was probably in the right here. So hear me out, I haven't completely lost my mind here, and I'm not recommending that you go out and start laying things at odds of 1,000. But in this instance, I am pretty sure that laying Bournemouth at 1,000 was indeed a value bet. And of course, the person who backed at 1,000 have got a mega payout on this occasion, but I'm pretty sure they have actually taken a negative EV bet. So let's take a closer look. To find out who was on the right side of the value, whether that be the backer or the layer, we need to know the true probability of an event occurring. So in this instance, what is the probability of a team that is losing 2-0 after 86 minutes coming back to win the game? Arguably, it's impossible to calculate the true probability of any bet, because every bet is its own unique event. It's impossible to rewind the clock back to Saturday afternoon to the 87th minute and replay that match an infinite number of times to work out how many times Bournemouth will go on to win the game. What we can do though is look at all the previous football matches where the home team was winning 2-0 after 86 minutes and see how many times the away team managed to pull the game back and win the game, which will give us a rough proxy on the probability of a team completing this type of comeback. We can then use this probability to calculate the implied odds and then work out the expected value of both backing and laying Bournemouth at odds of 1,000. The problem we have with this individual bet is that because we are investigating something with odds of 999 to 1, we're going to need a very large sample size in order to make accurate judgments about the bet. If we look back over the last 20 years of Premier League data, there has only been 653 instances of the home team having a 2-0 lead after 86 minutes. To get more games into our sample, we could look at all the games where the home team was leading by 2 goals. So this includes 2-0 obviously, but also includes 3-1 or any other possible scoreline where the home team is leading by 2 goals after 86 minutes. Even after doing this, we only increase our sample size to 1,020 games, which is nowhere near sufficient to judge a 999 to 1 bet. Out of curiosity, Bournemouth are the only team of these 1,020 games to overcome the 2-goal deficit after 86 minutes and go on to win the game. But we can't tell if this is a 1 in 1,020 game event or if Bournemouth have just been extremely lucky and the true probability might be closer to like 10,000 to 1 for all we know. To get more games in our sample, we can broaden our search to the top 5 European leagues over the last 20 years. Admittedly, we lose a little bit of accuracy here by including games from different leagues, and obviously the older the data, the less accurate and relevant it is as well. However, generally speaking, it's usually always optimal to have a larger sample size, even if that is as a compromise of losing a little bit of accuracy in the data, in my opinion. When we include the data from the top 5 European leagues, we find that there's been 4,636 games where the home team has had a 2-goal lead after 86 minutes. And there has only been 2 instances where the away team has gone on to win the game. The Bournemouth game that we have mentioned already, and Werder Bremen's comeback against Borussia Dortmund in August 2022. Again, another game where the away team came back from 2 goals to 0 down. 2 instances in 4,636 games would give implied odds of 2,318, which is more than double the odds that were matched for Bournemouth to win. But I still feel quite uneasy using a sample size of just 4,600 games to judge a 999 to 1 bet. So what I decided to do was just look back at all of the leagues that I have over the last 20 years from around the world. This drastically increased the sample size, but it did add some obscure leagues in as well, which are even less comparable to Premier League football. But this compromise, in my opinion, is worth it to get that larger number of games that I can analyse. So after analysing approximately 250,000 games of football from around the world, there has been 30,092 instances where the home team has been leading by 2 goals with 86 minutes played. And of those 30,092 games, there's been just 8 instances of the away team turning things around and going on to win the game. This equates to 0.03% of the games where the home team is winning by 2 goals after 86 minutes. And it would give Bournemouth implied odds of winning the game against Everton of 3,761. If we are to believe that the true odds should have been closer to 3,761, obviously you can't get those odds on Betfair as the max odds are 1,000, but hypothetically that's what they should have been. Well, it leaves a pretty damning verdict on the person who backed Bournemouth to win at odds of 1,000. Yes, they won this particular bet, and I hope that they use their profits well and spend them nicely. However, if we plug the values that we've discussed into an expected value formula and include Betfair's 2% commission, you can see that for every £1 staked odds of 1,000, they are losing 74p, which is a negative 74% expected value bet. So what exactly does that mean, losing 74p for every £1 wagered? Well, let me try to explain it in a bit more of an understandable way. It is equivalent to backing something at even money at 2.0 where the true odds should have been closer to 7.5 or 6.5 to 1, which, you know, isn't particularly optimal to say the least. The lay better is getting much better value for their bet. For every £1 laid at 1,000, the layer is picking up 71p of expected value after commission. Based on this, it is clear to see that despite getting very lucky in this instance, the person backing Bournemouth at odds of 1,000 has placed a really bad bet there. But does that mean it is worth laying Bournemouth at 1,000? Because, you know, you still would have lost a lot of money if you did that, despite picking up, you know, 70 odd p per £999 risked. From my perspective, I would say the bet is not worth placing for 2 reasons. Firstly, despite picking up a lot of EV, there still remains a high risk as you're risking £999 to win just a singular pound. And secondly, we could be wrong about the EV. I did a pretty rudimentary method to try and calculate what the true probability of a comeback is in this instance. But if I was inaccurate about this and I was actually placing a negative EV bet, then I'd be in a very stupid situation, placing a negative EV bet and placing a very high risk bet. So I don't think it is worth it for someone like me to be placing a lay bet at high odds like this. However, I can definitely see the potential for someone who is much more skillful than me, which isn't particularly difficult, you know, really optimizing this strategy and calculating the EV correctly and properly automating a system, laying everything at 1,000 every time the EV is good enough on hundreds and thousands of markets every single month. And in that case, you know, they could definitely take the hit of when it goes wrong, like in this Bournemouth game, because they were doing the strategy so frequently and turning over so much money and creating so much value and so much profit that they could easily take hits like this all the time. However, to run this type of strategy, you would need an absolutely enormous bankroll if you're doing multiple of these bets simultaneously. And that raises another question. Is this the optimal way to use your bankroll if you have such a large bankroll? My guess would be probably not, but I'm not 100% sure because I'm not good enough or have that bankroll to even attempt to try something like that. This has all been purely academic, as we'll probably never know who the backer or the layer was on this particular bet. You know, maybe the layer was sharp and knew exactly what they were doing, or it's probably just as possible that both the backer and the layer were both delinquent gamblers who were both going to be long-term losers. We'll probably never know. But I thought it was an interesting situation to share my thoughts on.